create for clients. Let's introduce myself, and I have actually adopted this webinar, which is a free webinar for all of our listeners and whoever wants to join, regarding fitness trainers and what we can do to make sure that our clients, when we are training them, get the maximum effect with their money. So who we are first, Skokie Institute of Allied Health, or SIAT, is a nonprofit education organization, and our purpose is to provide our community and our students with hands-on training and education, leading to economic independence and entry-level positions. We are highly focused on students. We really focus on our students' experience. We commitment to diversity and strengthening relationship with partners. We strive to build and retain strengthened relationship with our partners to allow real work experience. So our main purpose is for our students not to only get the training that they need, but also to get a job and a career in the field that they are looking for. Why should students join SIAT to get their dream career? First of all, we are adult focused. We are industry focused. Individuals who are working full time, whether you're straight out of high school or you went to community college and now are looking to see what you can do in order to get a career, we can help you with that because we are online. So we have career-focused opportunities that help our students get employment in their interested fields. Plus, we also offer free counseling to our students, including resume building, free resume help, interview techniques, free seminars. This webinar that we are presenting to you is also a part of that free commitment to our society, because what our main purpose is not only to our mission is not only to provide our students with the training, we also would like everyone to be aware. So what are the objectives of this webinar? The objective of the webinar basically is talk about energy, mechanical. So energy is different forms: mechanical, chemical, heat, electrical, light, and nuclear. And for our sports purposes, for fitness trainers, we will only be discussing about mechanical, chemical, energy, heat energy, and heat energy also, because these three are the forms of energy that are very, very important in making sure that clients are burning the most of the calories and how they can lose weight. So if you see here, we have a picture of different forms of energy. So for animals like a rooster and a human being, we use chemical energy in the form of food. So the food that we take in are carbohydrates, fats, or proteins. All of those provide us with energy. For plants, the chemical energy comes through the solar energy, which is the sun. Plants can make their own food, so they produce carbohydrate, fats, and proteins for themselves by the help of the solar energy. Now, what does this have to do with our motive as a fitness trainer? Well, basically, human energy is, first of all, mechanical. Has mechanical energy. Mechanical energy means it's the ability for a person to do metabolic work. In other words, whatever we eat, we break it down, and then we produce chemicals or we produce proteins that are required for us to stay healthy. Our chemical energy in our body is actually the stored form of energy. So let's say if a person takes 5 pieces of pizza and the body only needed 2 in order to fill their appetite, the remaining 3 pieces will be stored in the form of energy in our muscles, in our liver, and these have high energy bonds. High energy bonds meaning when we work out or when we use this energy, they break and they produce a lot of heat. So these high energy bonds are called as ATP, which is adenosine triphosphate. The heat energy is the product of metabolism. So in other words, now that person who took 5 pieces of pizza, now is starting to walk. He's starting to sweat, and he's starting to, because he's starting to do labor work, or he's starting to do heavy lifting. He needs energy for that. If you don't have energy, you will not be able to lift anything heavy. So he'll start to sweat, and he'll start to and he'll feel like he's gonna give all his push. So that energy is coming from the high energy bond. So that's the heat energy, which is the product of metabolism. So in other words, that's the energy that is produced when the food is broken down, or when we are using chemical energy, which in other words would be ATP, or adenosine triphosphate. Heat is released, and the heat that we see in our body, and how do we know that heat is released, is because we start sweating, or he's going to start getting he's going to start feeling thirst. That's how you know that, okay, you are releasing your heat. Now, how do you measure the work and physical activity? So the way a trainer can measure their client's physical activity is by cycling or by arm lifting. In other words, have them do something like lift a 25-pound weight, or do heavy lifting, or do strength training. In a lab, a physical activity lab, the way it's measured, the energy and work and physical activity is measured is through a pedometer and an accelerometer, or an intelligent device. These are both intelligent device for energy expenditure, and also for your positioning. So if, in order to see what position you should be, where you will get the most energy. So a pedometer is something that is now becoming very, very popular, because people are now starting to use it as a part of their daily activities. iPhone or our smartphones nowadays also have a pedometer. So if anybody is looking to see how much physical activity or work he did, all he or she needs to do is switch it on, and it will give them an idea of how many steps they took. Accelerometer is another form in which you actually can measure the amount of running you did. So if you were running, sprinting, walking, and then jogging at different levels, it will tell you how much you did. Measurement of energy expenditure. So basically, energy spent is not the same as the amount of work you're doing. So that's one thing that we as physical trainers need to keep in mind. If we want the client to lose more energy, to use more of their energy, we have to then cater their fitness plan in a way that their muscles are doing the most work, and they're using that energy. So there are different forms. So isometric exercises, for example, are the form of exercise in which muscles are contracted, meaning your muscles are actually working, but they don't move. In other words, they don't require that much energy. Example is plank. When the muscle contracts or shortens, it's really not doing that much work, and that means it's not doing that. It's not giving you that much energy, that much effect. Now, telemetry measures, basically in the lab, there are two ways. So you have direct telemetry and indirect telemetry. Direct telemetry basically is that you take a person, maybe like an animal or a human being, put them in a chamber. The chamber is vacuumed. I'll show you the picture in the next slide. And you give them amount of food, and then you have them eat in the chamber, and then see how much energy is being released. Indirect telemetry basically is done in a lab, in which it's also used to see how your metabolism is working. And in many fitness training programs, a lot of times fitness trainers will use that. The example basically is they want to see how much energy and how much work you're doing by you looking at the amount of oxygen that you breathe in and the amount of carbon dioxide that you eliminate. So they basically have you put on an instrument that will measure that, and that will give them an idea of how your metabolism is. A lot of times, a lot of physical activity labs or fitness labs will use it because if there's a patient there's a client that's really obese and they need to want them to lose weight, that would be maybe the best way to do it, because then in this way they can give him a nutrition plan, they can give him a fitness plan that will help that person to lose weight by looking at the indirect telemetry. So this is an example of direct telemetry. So you can see there's food, insulation is around the chamber. In other words, it's vacuumed. There's an space a person can take in oxygen, breathe out carbon dioxide, and there's a thermometer. And what it does, it measures the amount of energy that was produced. This picture is an indirect telemetry. Like I said, that this person is a fitness trainer who's trying to measure his client's amount of oxygen taken in and carbon dioxide being breathed out. And also a lot of times measure the amount of sweat, because sweat has water in it. It will give them an idea of how much water is being consumed is being taken out by the person. So as a fitness trainer and as anyone who is a human being who wants to know how you measure energy in human beings, is called as calorie. In most of the world they say joule, but in United States it's calorie. So 1 kilogram of calorie will increase the temperature of water, 1 gram of water by 1 degree centigrade. That's the amount of heat that is released in our body. So in 1,000 gram calories, you have is equal to 1 kilocalorie. So if you're taking a diet that has 1,000 grams in it, you can take an idea of how much energy you will be releasing. It's equal to 1,001 kilocalorie or 1,000 calories. That means that thing you're taking, that food that the person is consuming, is more than enough for them for the whole day. Because when they take in, they'll get a lot of stored energy, and when they take it out or they want to exercise, that amount of food will release enough energy for them to actually do 2 to 3 hours of running, if they're looking into that, or 2 to 3 hours of exercise at least. So how is our energy stored in the body? So energy is stored as adenosine triphosphate, is stored as phosphocreatine, carbohydrate is stored as fat, and is stored as protein. Carbohydrates and fats is what causes a person to get obese. Extra phosphocreatine and extra adenosine triphosphate is what causes them to have that extra energy that causes a person to sweat when they are not doing anything. In other words, they have so much energy and stored energy in the body that they basically would be able to survive on that energy or on that food that they have without eating the whole day. This is an example of how energy is produced from the food that we take. So if you look at this, we as fitness trainers need to be aware of this, because this is how we will now see how much calorie diet that our client needs to actually take, so that they can see the results of losing weight and exercising in the meantime, at the same time. So carbohydrates are broken down into glucose, fat is broken down into fatty acid, and you can see proteins are broken down into amino acids. Now, all these three, basically glucose, amino acid, and fatty acid, need to be converted into one common element that our body will use, which is the stored energy and that's acetyl-CoA. Acetyl coenzyme A, which is this, is actually the main component that produces ATP. ATP is released when carbohydrates and fats are broken down, but it's released even more when that glucose and that fatty acid and amino acids are converted into acetyl coenzyme A. They go inside the mitochondria. This occurs inside the cell and the mitochondria. They're broken down through Krebs cycle, which occurs inside the cell, and through the Krebs cycle, it goes into an electron transport chain that occurs in the mitochondria. During that process, carbon dioxide and water is released, but we also release energy, which is ATP. Now, if that person is doing heavy lifting or anything, extreme exercise or strenuous exercise right after the food, that ATP will be consumed. But if that person is not doing anything and it's just sedentary, that energy will then be stored. So what are the human energy systems inside our body? The one in runners, because that's the one that we tell our clients to do, is anaerobic power, which is 60 to 200 meters or 6 to 20 seconds. Anaerobic capacity, which is anaerobic glycolysis, produces lactic acid. It's 400 to 800 meters, which is 43 to 103 seconds. Aerobic power is aerobic glycolysis, which is 5,000 to 10,000 meters, and it will continue from 12 to 26 minutes. Aerobic capacity is aerobic glycolysis, which is breakdown of the fats. It will be between 42.2 to 100 kilometers, or which is equal to 125 to 360 minutes. So basically, what this chart is telling us that as a fitness trainer, we need to keep in mind, depending on our clients' goals and depending on what goals we have set for them, we need to see if we need to prescribe them more anaerobic exercises or aerobic exercises. Anaerobic exercise, if you look at the chart, the person is not going to be able to continue longer, maybe 6 to 20 or 43 to 103, because it does not require oxygen, or the person cannot take oxygen. So as a result, lactic acid is released, and the person will tire out quickly. It will get to the point that they are heavily breathing and gasping for air. Aerobic power basically is just simple running, simple jogging, or walking, and a person can continue that from the minimum of 12 minutes to a maximum of 360 minutes, which is equal to almost 3 hours. So when a client comes to us and they are obese or they have a weight problem and they tell us that we need to lose weight, we want to lose weight, we as the fitness trainer need to look at how we are going to maximize their energy level so they are able to lose the weight at their desired time. That is the reason why we need to know about the different forms of energy system. The oxygen energy system basically means it requires oxygen. So it will not cause a lot of muscle cramps. It will not cause fatigue. Muscle cramps occurs when lactic acid starts to gather around, or it starts to settle down inside the cells and in the muscles. The cramps go away after that lactic acid is soon after the exercise is over. The lactic acid is then converted into carbon dioxide and water. Aerobic glycolysis is the oxidation, meaning breakdown of glycogen or glucose in the presence of oxygen. Aerobic glycolysis basically means the fatty acids or proteins are being removed Aerobic proteolysis, meaning breakdown of proteins, which does not produce that much energy, is actually oxidation of amino acid that consists of glucose or amino acid that consists of ketones in them. So when a patient is trying to lose weight and they're obese, the best way to have their maximum energy being released is by giving them a high protein diet and a low protein carbohydrates. High protein diet will actually cause the body to use the protein and the fat that is already present in the food, or sorry, in the body, and in this way they have more chances of losing that accumulated fat and accumulated sugar that they have in their body. So this is a chart that shows different forms of energy and how different it's the different way you can get energy. So liver breakdowns to glucose. Now all of this happens in the liver, in active muscle, and in the fat tissues, and some happens in the lungs. Main digestion is glucose is broken down in the liver into muscle glycogen. Then that is converted into acetyl coenzyme A, and then that acetyl coenzyme A goes into Krebs cycle, an electron, and is converted into carbon dioxide and water through electron transport change. During that time, ATP is released. Adipose tissue, it has glyceride, is changed into fatty acid. They are then converted into acetyl coenzyme A. And again, they go into the cell, inside the cell, changed into through Krebs cycle and through electron transport system, they are changed to carbon dioxide and water. Now, in the active muscle, the amino acids are converted into acetyl coenzyme A, goes through the same process, and ATP is released. Now, in phosphocreatine, which is stored form of protein, stored form of energy in the muscle, when it's broken down, it's converted into ATP, and then that is where the energy fraction is coming from. Now, what nutrients are necessary for the operation of the human energy system? So as a fitness trainer, we want to explain our client in a very simple language that, okay, if you're already taking high carbohydrate, high protein, and high fat diets, why is it that you need to lay them off and add proteins in your diet? It's because all these three foods are converted into one main chemical, which is acetyl coenzyme A. The purpose for our client is to lose weight. So if they are already obese and have a heavy weight and they are trying to get healthy weight, they already have stored fat and stored glucose in their liver and in their muscles that they don't need. So when the body is not taking in any glucose and any fats, the stored muscle and the stored glucose in the body will be converted into acetyl coenzyme A, and that will still give them the energy that they require. And it will also help them get rid of that fat that's in their fat cells and shrink the fat cells. What nutrients are necessary for the operation of energy systems? Well, basically we have water, which is very important because the process of breaking down of food, a lot of time it needs water. So we need to tell our clients that they need to drink water. And in other words, 8 glasses of water a day. Vitamins. Vitamin B is used as coenzymes, and is involved in many energy processes. Minerals like metalloenzymes like zinc, cobalt, chromium, all iron, all of these are a part of our body also and are also required for our energy process. And then certain dietary supplements like coenzyme 10 and carnitine are very important because these supply your body with energy and the process of breaking down the food or breaking down the food that they've taken or they're trying to digest or breaking down the fat that they're trying to get rid of. So the best thing, in other words, also is to give our clients, once we become their fitness trainer, we need to give our client a dietary supplement, a multivitamin that consists of all of these. Water, of course, will not be there, but we need to tell them that they need to drink water maximum amount, and in other words, 8 glasses of water a day. And best thing is to keep a water bottle with them. But a multivitamin with minerals, with the dietary supplement, a separate coenzyme 10 needs to be given to them as a dietary supplement, which will actually give them the minerals and give them the vitamins that they are looking for. So now, what is metabolism? So we were talking about energy, but we need to also know about metabolism. So basically, metabolism is the process of breaking down of foods. It represents all physical and chemical changes that take place within the body. You have anabolic metabolism, and then you have catabolic metabolism. Anabolic means that you are sorting, meaning your body is taking in the food and producing proteins that you need. For example, a baby is born, it grows from a neonate to a toddler to a child to an adolescent to an adult. It's because it's going through anabolic processes. Catabolic processes basically means breaking down of food. So whatever food we take is being broken down into energy, and that's catabolic processes. Energy metabolism that's measured during rest is known as the basic metabolic rate, which maintains our our resting metabolism, meaning how much food energy are we taking when we are not doing anything, in other words, when we are sleeping. Basal metabolic rate basically is the metabolic rate that we take. We see how much energy we use in a 24-hour period when we're not doing anything. Resting metabolic rate is basically looking at the basic metabolic rate, but we're also looking at our rate when we are resting, or we're just doing like walking around in the house, washing dishes, standing in front of the stove and cooking. We can look at our resting metabolic rate that way. Resting energy expenditure, meaning how much energy is required by our body when we are not doing any strenuous exercise or any extreme exercise. What factors are accounted for in the amount of energy? Well, first of all, we need to look for the basal metabolism. It's the metabolism, or that rate of energy we require to stay awake or stay alive. Basal energy expenditure, basically the amount of energy we need in a 24-hour period. And then the resting metabolic rate, which is a little bit higher than the basal metabolic rate, and then the resting energy expenditure. So these are the amount that we look at when we are training our clients. So when we have a meal on, how does it affect our metabolic rate? Our metabolic rate actually increases because each food has a thermic effect. There's a reason why they say this food can be fattening or that food can be fattening, because each food has a thermic effect. When the food goes into our body, it releases a lot of energy, and that energy is what we measure in calories. That's how we know each food has maybe 500 calories a gram, or 200 calories a gram, or 10 calories a gram. Thermic effect of food is basically what we need to consider when we are controlling our diet. So when we are looking at a client, we need to explain to them that why they need to give up certain carbohydrates and fats, and basically exchange it for proteins, because each food that they eat has a thermic effect. Then we need to explain to them that they need to lay off sweets, they need to lay off burgers, they need to lay off fries, because whatever we are taking, each of that again has a thermic effect, releases energy, and that's the energy that we explain to them is in calories. Sources of energy during rest. Basically, when a person is not doing anything, 60% of the energy comes from the fat, 40% comes from carbohydrates, and a very small amount from protein. Now, the diet may affect the energy source during rest. So basically, whatever we eat also affects. So if we are a person who's taking a diet rich in carbohydrate or fat, will basically increase our energy during the rest. But if we're taking a food that has proteins, it will not produce that much energy during our resting period. Human energy metabolism during exercise. Basically, exercise, when a client exercises, or we tell our clients to exercise, we tell them to run or do do biceps lifting or tricep lifting or do push-ups, it stresses most body systems. And at that point, our muscle and our nucleus and our neurons or our nervous system determine how much energy we need. And that is the reason why a lot of time when people they start exercising, you see them gradually lose weight really quickly. But then when they get to a certain point, they keep doing the same exercise, they keep doing the same amount of work, they don't see a change in them. And the reason why, because the nervous system and the muscles can then they can sense how much energy is needed for their body to exercise, and it gets used to that. And then the muscles get used to those exercises, and you don't see them release that much energy. Walking and running basically is something that we as fitness trainers love to tell our clients to do, because walking releases 1 calorie and running releases 1.6, depending on how much work we're doing and how much miles they are running. Dominant energy systems in runners, basically that we need to, depending on what type of running they're doing, is anaerobic, and aerobic. So both these different types of energy systems we need to keep in mind whenever we're giving it to our client. A client who has never run before, anaerobic exercise would not be a good thing for them, because they would have chances of feeling faint, they would have chances of vomiting. But a client that is used to exercise, has been running, has been walking, anaerobic can be given to them for a small amount, like maybe for 5 minutes, after every 15-20 minutes. So we as trainers need to keep that in mind too, because we want that client's energy to be used as a maximum for them to be able to lose weight. What energy sources are used during exercises? Again, ATP, which is adenosine triphosphate, and phosphocreatine, which is our muscles and our cells energy system. Lactic acid, when we are having our clients do anaerobic, meaning really fast running or sprinting, which is produced by muscle glycogen. And then oxygen energy system, which is through fat and blood, muscle glycogen and blood glucose, muscle triglycerides and fat, and then proteins. Now basically, if we are exercising and we're telling our clients to exercise, we want to tell them to use glucose versus the fat, because glucose is the main energy that is used by the body. Fat is tapped in later on. So when the person eats something before they exercise, that food, which is a banana or any carbohydrate, will be digested right away. And then afterwards, when that is digested, the body needs to keep going because it needs energy. Fat will be tapped in. Now, the mega-fat burning zone is what we use as our clients. What we tell them is that basically the fat burning zone is what we recommend for our clients. Exercise intensity needed to get into this zone is most effective, often low intensity exercise. Meaning we need to make sure that the person, when they're running or when they're exercising, they get at that zone and they're able to, and their body is able to work and release the energy that we need, or burn the fat or glucose that they're trying to lose in order to lose the weight. Then you have a target heart rate, which is basically the maximum amount of your maximum amount of how much your heart can beat in one minute to 1 hour, and that is the target heart rate we seek for. So we see these internet sites and consoles of many pieces of carbohydrate exercises, and basically what they are telling the clients that you should be working 50% heavier compared to what your body can go through. When you get that 50%, then you can start resting, because you will reach your target heart rate. And then after that, you can, if you go to extreme, that's where you go to anaerobic exercise, or intensity or interval level. So it is, so basically the goal of the athletes, if the goal of the athletes or the goal of the our client is just to oxidize atmos fat, then it is important for us to determine the appropriate metabolic response. It's important for us as their client, as their fitness trainer, to see what is their energy expenditure, how much can they tolerate. If the goal is weight loss, which is what is a lot of times the main goal for a lot of our clients, then the total energy expenditure, whether it is for an hour or whether it's half an hour, it needs to be taken into focus, because in this way we can tell them that at 50% more to 80% to 100%, meaning their body has reached their maximum capacity, and now they need to start to take it a little slow. And this is where a lot of times when we are working with our clients as fitness trainers, we need them to wear a heart monitor, because that is where we are measuring their fat burning zone and their maximum intensity zone. I hope you liked this webinar. This webinar actually was a part of a free training, free training that we provided to you today. I hope as a fitness trainer or as a future fitness trainer, you received the most training you could from our webinar. This was actually taken from our fitness trainer program. Syed has a fitness trainer program in which we talk about anatomy, physiology, medical terminology, exercise theory and physiology 1, exercise theory and physiology 2, business of personal training and fitness. And then in the last term, the student does a fitness training externship. Once the student, there are 4 terms in the program is only for 10 months. Once the student is able, completes the fitness trainer externship, they're able to sit for the National Association for Fitness Certification Certified Personal Training exam. Open enrollment for spring term is still going on. It will end May 2nd, and after that, summer enrollment will begin. You can register on these web links. You can also go on our website, which is http://www.siaht.org. You can email us generally at info@siaht.org, or you can call us at 847-461-3985. We keep giving free webinars to our clients and our community, so be on the lookout for another free webinar that will either be from our nutrition program or from our medical billing and insurance specialist program. Thank you for being a part of our webinar. Have a great week and a great weekend.